Managing people is hard, especially when someone on your team is off. You feel it. Missed deadlines, tension in meetings, the way your team flinches when their name comes up. You know something needs to be said, but you don't want to create drama or make things worse. This is the script I used when the energy shifted, the expectations were slipping, and I needed to reset without blowing up the relationship. But here's the truth. Avoided conversations become culture killers. That top performer in your company, the one that you don't want to lose, if something's off and you don't address it, they can quietly sabotage your culture, your performance, even your client relationships. But here's the twist. Fierce doesn't mean explosive. You don't have to fight. You just have to lead. And this is the model I used to do it. Hey there, I'm Ben Gerster, and I scaled my digital marketing agency to over $400,000 in monthly recurring revenue by implementing smart, scalable frameworks that I will teach you here on this channel. In this video, we're talking about fierce conversations. Now, this is one of my favorite books and one of the most instrumental books that I've read that turned me into a great leader of my team. And this book is Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott. Now, in this book, she outlines many ways to have what she calls a fierce conversation. And how I've used this throughout my years is anytime I have conflict that I have to address. And for the longest time in my agency, I was just not very comfortable dealing with conflict. And a lot of the reasons for that is that I really needed my people to stay on board with me. I valued my people. I wanted them to be happy in my agency. And so for smaller things that I noticed that might have been a problem, maybe a mistake was made, I just let those things slide. But that starts to add up. And not only is it detrimental to that employee and that I'm not leading them very well, I'm not coaching them, but it's also really cancerous to the rest of the team and the culture and the standards that I'm setting within the agency. So you may be finding yourself shying away from those difficult conversations, conflict, addressing a problem when you see it. And this framework will help you do that. We're going to walk through the 7 steps to having a critical conversation with one of your team members. The first step to having a critical conversation is to name the issue. You need to make it clear what this conversation is about. That might sound like, let's talk about what's been happening with deadlines. So you're just going to name the issue. So it's very, very clear. And again, one of the important tactics to these meetings is to not come in loaded. We're not coming in strongly emotional. We're not angry. We're just going to be factual and calm and disarming as we bring up these scenarios. This is just the facts, black and white, what is going on. So let's talk about what's been happening with deadlines. Number 2, give a specific example of that issue and where it is you've noticed it. You've missed the Monday deliverables for client X. Again, we're just stating facts here. We're having a meeting about deadlines. You missed the deadlines for client X. Number 3, describe the impact. Now, we need to make sure it's clear that this is not just me coming down on them. There is a bigger impact. There is something at risk here. That created ops churn, and I had to jump in. So that's the impact of this particular issue. So we name that impact for them. Number 4, you own your emotions without dumping emotions. Again, we're not coming in loaded. So that might sound like, I felt frustrated and disappointed because I know you're better. So we've actually communicated our emotions on this issue. I was disappointed. I was frustrated because I know you know better. I know you are better than this. Number 5, clarify what's at stake. What could go wrong if this doesn't get resolved? We risk client trust, and it sets a bad tone internally. It's the truth. These are just the facts. And this, again, takes the issue outside of just being you one-to-one with the person, you judging them, you coming down on them, you being a difficult boss or a demanding boss. You're going to really let them see how this has a bigger impact on the rest of the company and to the rest of the team. Number 6, acknowledge your role. I may not have set clear enough expectations. That's on me. Now, I think it's important to own your role in this. This is fair. Sometimes there is something that you didn't clarify. Sometimes they didn't have all of the information they needed. Maybe they didn't receive training on that particular process or step or thing. Now, obviously, if this is a persistent issue that you've addressed multiple times, the conversation is going to sound different than this. And there are processes, whether that's a PIP, where it's a performance improvement plan, where you're documenting this. This is really designed to be the first conversation to address something that has gone awry. But I do think it's important for you to take accountability and show them that you're willing to take accountability. You're not just blaming them. You will look inward first before you are going to just put blame on them. Now, number 7 is really powerful. Invite them in. What's your take? I want to know where you're at. Now, this is the best way to frame this. If we don't take all of these steps to outline naming of the issue, giving a specific example, describing the impact, owning your emotion, clarifying what's at stake, and acknowledge your role, taking some form of accountability, if we don't build the case for this conversation and we just come right at them and say, I'm really pissed off, you missed the deadline on Monday, that is a big problem, and why did that happen? If you come at them like that, you're going to get a very defensive answer from them. They may call out all sorts of other things and blame it on that. They may say, well, I'm overloaded, or I've got too much stuff going on, or maybe there's this person that I'm going to blame. This allows them to clearly see that you've thought through the issue, they understand the framing of the issue, what's at stake to the organization, and now you're calmly asking them, what's your take? I want to know where you're at. And most of the time, this is going to lend to a really great reflection and honest response from that team member, where they will say, you're right. I know this has an impact. I missed it because of this. This is my thing to own. So there's usually a very accountable response that comes from this. But if there isn't, and they start to bring in other things or start to pull other issues into the conversation, it's your job to bring them back to the conversation, which is why this is so important to have named the issue at the beginning of the discussion. Because if they start bringing up other things that are challenges, frustrations, blockers for them, you get to just say, you know what, we're getting off track. We need to come back. We're talking about the issue of missing deadlines. We're not talking about the issue of capacity planning. We're not talking about the issues of this other department or this other thing that you're bringing into the conversation. I want to know your take on the actual deadlines that are being missed and why that is happening. So that really does help us reframe and redirect, constantly redirect the conversation back to the core issue at hand. Now, this type of conversation works so well because it's not emotional venting. It's a structured truth. You come in clear, you're not loaded, you lead the conversation, your feelings aren't leading the conversation, just the facts. And you create space for clarity without conflict for both you and the team member. This is leadership. This isn't venting. This isn't blaming. This is just clear, factual, structured truth. Because when you lead the conversation, you protect the culture of your agency. When your team sees this, you don't just retain performance, you build trust with your team. And that trust will last and continue to build the culture that you're trying to build and retain your best people. Keep in mind that being clear, being honest, and being a good coach means you're willing to tackle the difficult conversations on the spot when they come up, that you don't let issues fester and you don't let resentment build. So I hope this video helped you to understand a better way for you to approach those tricky conversations, become a better leader, and build a better culture within your agency. If you like this video, click that like button, hit the subscribe button, and follow along for more tips and tricks on how to be a better agency, a better leader, and live a better life. Until the next time, stay focused, stay hungry, and keep hustling.